Hi, Crystal Oculi here. I am the Chief Financial Strategist here at Confidence Wealth. And what I wanted to talk to you about today, and really this entire week I've been wanting to hop on and discuss this, was all about cash flow management. One of the things that I'm noticing a lot that people in general lack is, and especially when it comes to thinking about their retirement, is understanding their cash flow management. And majority are under the false illusion that I don't need to worry about it because if I don't need a budget and I have money, then I don't really need to know what my cash flow looks like. Why do I need to know what I spend if there is enough money coming in? So that's the biggest struggle. I think is just the human nature part of it. And because they associate cash flow management, a majority of people are associating that with budgeting, that they're completely missing that it is so important that they understand what's coming in and what's going out the door. So let's talk a little bit about that. When you're working, you're accumulating, and what's happening is you're putting money away towards your 401k. Sometimes you have automatic savings, so you don't really pay attention to anything else. Then you get to that distribution phase of retirement where you're withdrawing from your money. And if you have Social Security, pension, maybe rental income coming in, and a lot of times, maybe that required minimum distribution, again, people ignore what's coming in because they're looking at it that's just guaranteed income. But you got to remember, required minimum distribution is not guaranteed income. That's off of your investments. So the reason it's so important to take a look at cash flow is it helps you strategize better when it comes to your investments. I want you to just think about for a second a company that you like. Let's take Apple as an example. Imagine if Apple, just generally speaking, said, let's not worry about looking at our balance sheet, what's coming in and what's going out the door. What's the point? Why do we need to know what we spend? We have lots of money. We're making great money. We're selling lots of iPhones and we don't really need to worry about it. Can you just imagine how that company would function, not knowing what their payroll cost, not knowing what their marketing budget is, not knowing anything else? So they will not be able to succeed. So I want you to think about yourself as a business. If I'm a business and I'm operating, must I know my cash flow? And the answer is going to be always yes, because that is how you're going to be successful. You're going to take a look at the cash flow and know where you are strong and where you're wasting money. Just like a business that may look at certain vendors they're spending money on and go, well, this is a little too much. Maybe I can do better. It's not that they couldn't continue doing it, but they're being smart. And that's how you have to operate. I want you to think about as the business of you, your retirement, it's all about you. And understanding that cash flow is going to help you determine how to spend money wisely. Let's talk about an example of that. So let's say you start monitoring your cash flow and you realize that maybe there is a lot of expenses that you never noticed associated with a rental income. Well, meaning that house, whatever improvement or maintaining of that particular property itself is costing you more than you thought. Well, that will be the time to take a look at it and say, does it make sense to keep that property? Or would it make more sense to 1031 exchange it to a different property that will not have as much maintenance? Because one reason, you may not want to deal with it. And you may not want to, as you get older, deal with a property that you have to, keep maintaining and has issues. And two, maybe it's not as profitable as you thought. So then why be in that situation? So the only way you will be able to determine that is by managing that cash flow. A lot of times people look at the rental income coming in and they're like, well, I'm getting the rental income, and they're not really taking a look at the expenses of the property. So that's one way. As you can see, it's not really about someone that doesn't have money. It's actually about someone who does have different buckets giving different streams of income. That's important. This also goes into many other things. So let's say you, you're spending money on Amazon and you don't even know how much your money you're spending on Amazon. And then at the end of the month, you may take a look at and see your Amazon costs have gone up a lot higher. You take a look at the details and then you go, well, did I really truly intended to spend that money? that I buy a lot of things that are just wasteful. So that's how understanding your cash flow can help you determine your expenses. Let's talk about now in the distribution phase, why this could be so important. So in the distribution phase of retirement, when you are taking a look at what are my needs? What are my needs that I need to cover based on what income coming in and expenses and all that good stuff? So you may find out that as inflation taking in place and the income is increasing, at certain times, let's just say you're retiring today, 5 years from now, there's going to be the need for a certain dollar amount to come in. But 10 years from now, there might be more coming in, depending on also what sources of income are getting turned on. So that will help you determine which bucket to access and which bucket to allow growth for the future. It will also help you determine, your cash flow will help you determine how you're going to survive volatility, but more importantly, how to strategically plan your market investments through the ups and downs. So example, if you find out that I am going to need more money a decade from now, then maybe a few years before that decade hits, on that particular bucket that you were maybe aggressive with, you start being a little bit more moderate. Go a little bit more conservative, because that will be the money that you're going to be using at that time. So as you can see, understanding your cash flow is not just about budgeting. It's about everything else. It's about knowing how to strategically plan, how aggressive you can be in the market, which bucket you can be aggressive with, which bucket you're going to turn on at what time and when. Also, it helps you do one of my favorite things, tax planning. So when you know how much net you need, then you work it backwards of how much gross you need. Because remember, this is the big part that a lot of people forget about. When you look at your expenses and you say, this is how much I need in retirement. So let's just have an example. If you need $5,000 a month in retirement, well, that $5,000 a month, it's not really $5,000. It's going to be more than that. Right? Because you have to pay taxes on it. So maybe $7,000, maybe it's $8,000 that you have to take out. So it really depends on what situation you're in. Are you married? Are you single? How much money you're taking out? What your tax bracket looks like? How much gross income we need to take out? Then you can be strategic about what bucket do I take money from, because you may be looking at conversions along the way, which means you may want to take some of your money from your pre-tax dollars and convert it to tax-free dollars. Well, none of these can actually be planned for without knowing what first your cash flow looks like, what your expenses are. So one of the things that I encourage you on so much that you must grasp and really start looking at what is everything I spend money on. And doesn't mean you have to get to the details that, you have technology now. On your phone, you can literally look up and you can put apps in. And example, clients, if you're listening, you can use your site where you can track it for you and it can show you the categories you're spending money on. Then that's how you can determine your cash flow. Then you're looking at, how do I build my net worth? Because now I know what's coming in, what's going out, and how I can strategically have the right investment plan in place. Remember, sorry, I'm going to take a sip of the water. I talk so much all day, so when I get to the end of the day, I'm a little thirsty. But so basically what you need to take a look at, saying, okay, when I understand what's happening, then I can really plan my investments the right way and more strategically. And don't get bogged down with, oh my gosh, this is such a terrible thing that I must know what I'm spending on, does this mean I have to be on a budget? Not at all. It has nothing to do with that. Cash flow management, if you look at the ultra wealthy in our country, really has dedicated teams that are looking at their cash flow, reporting to them. What are they spending? What's coming in? What's going out? They actually have a full-time salaried person sometimes just reporting these numbers to them. If it wasn't so important, why would they be doing it? So it's not because there's a lack of money coming in, right? It's because that they want to make sure that they're actually on the right track and they're spending money wisely. Another reason this could help you is let's put it this way. Let's just say you finally start looking at the categories you're spending money on. And then you start seeing reoccurring costs that is getting charged. Some legitimate, and some may be things that you no longer actually use, and memberships and things like that you never would have looked at because you weren't monitoring your cash flow. But as you start monitoring your cash flow, you can all of a sudden say, well, this doesn't seem like something I'm using anymore, so maybe I can go ahead and cancel that membership. And that's the key, because it just doesn't make sense sometimes to have all these reoccurring bills if you're not paying attention to it. It also will help you understand, again, what areas are your strengths and what areas are your weaknesses. So you may be spending so much money on food, and then you find out, well, that's my weakness. I love food, and that's what I want to spend my money on. Well, that's okay. You just have to plan for it. Or you may find out where you're spending a lot of money on is maybe buying presents for your grandkids. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe you didn't know, and then it can help you determine a little bit better. I'll give you an example. One of the things I noticed is how much money I'm spending on my nephew, which is fine. I want to spoil him. But I was like, you know what? I can probably put at least 50% of what I'm spending on him, because it's ridiculous how much toys can a kid need, towards his 529 plan. Because is he really going to need all these new toys every month coming in? Trust me, when you have a 2-year-old nephew, as I know a lot of you, when you got the little kids, you just start spoiling them and sending them so much stuff. And at some point you realize, is this necessary? And is there a better use of what you can put that money to? So really, it's all about, not about budgeting you, because, of course I can continue buying whatever I want from him. Of course you can do whatever you want for your grandkids, but are you doing it wisely? It helps you make smart and intelligent choices when it comes to your cash flow. And that's how companies operate. I want you to realize that's one of the biggest things that happens, that whole end of the year where they look at what came in, what went out, where we spend money on, where were we heavy with, how can we do better? All of that is what makes a company successful. So why not do the same thing for yourself? Why not be successful in the business of you, which is the most important thing? And you know what? I'll tell you this, start testing your friends and ask them, do you know how much you spend each month? Do you really know how much, down to the penny, what you spend? You'd be surprised how many people know and how many people do not. So putting it out there for you, I'm going to put that positive energy that I want you to start taking your money seriously and start looking at how that cash flow looks like. It's also what you put out. What you put out in the universe comes right back. If you don't care about it, you don't pay attention to it, it can easily also slide away. But if you start caring and paying attention and being smart and strategic about your spending habits, it is just going to help you build your net worth more and more. It's the reason they say sometimes the richer keeps getting richer, because they have these elements that are really looked upon by some of the people that they have that every day are looking at it, and then they're reporting and they're understanding. So now you may not have that full-time assistant running around telling you what's going on, but you have a great app and you have your site and you have so many different instruments. And if you've never looked at it and you want to run some numbers, we're here for you. You can always go ahead and go ahead and email me or send me a text or whatever you need, and we can see what are the things that you need to do and what are the tools that you can use to get your cash flow management under control. So good luck. Let's start taking a look at what's going out and what's coming in. Have a great one. Until next time.